The day began with a subdued buzz coursing through the corridors of the Galactic Confederation's Grand Diplomatic Station, a structure orbiting a neutral star at the crossroads of three major trade routes. Ambassador Xylox of the Xylar species stepped off his small shuttle onto the station's polished deck plates. He inhaled, allowing his 4 respiratory sacs to expand gently. The station's sterilized air always felt slightly thinner than what he was used to on Xylar Prime, but he had grown accustomed to this environment over decades of diplomatic service. A wave of color flickered across his smooth skin, the subtle shade of dull violet indicating a mix of apprehension and curiosity. He was here for a singular reason: to observe, understand, and, if possible, ally with the newcomers called humans. The Confederation had encountered many new species in its millennia of existence, but recent reports suggested these humans were nothing short of extraordinary. They had expanded outward from a single star system with surprising speed, established colonies on several worlds, and were now petitioning for full Confederation membership. Yet rumors were swirling that the humans hailed from a death world, a place so hostile that, by all logic, intelligent life shouldn't have emerged there at all. Even more, it was said they had not only survived but thrived. Xylox had read about catastrophic climate shifts, apex predators, and near-constant warfare in their history. By all rights, such a species should have destroyed itself long before reaching the stars. He arrived at a spacious foyer where translucent panels displayed starscapes from all around. Queel, his junior aide, stood waiting with a datapad clutched in trembling hands. In the distance, tall, broad-shouldered humans milled around, their expressions hard to read for someone who had never encountered them in person. Xylox's skin flashed an uncertain pale hue, then settled into a calmer color as he reminded himself to stay composed. Queel bowed his narrow head. "Ambassador, they're waiting for us in the primary reception hall." Ambassador Laura Frost of Earth is leading the human delegation, with a security attaché called Marcus Reed. "I've run every possible analysis of their physiology as you requested." Xylox gestured for Queel to walk with him, and Queel lowered his voice. "They come from a world with intense gravitational pull, at least compared to many Confederation species. Their musculoskeletal structure is denser, allowing them feats of strength and endurance that might seem excessive to us. They can run for hours without stopping, apparently a trait called persistence hunting." Xylox exhaled slowly. "Yes, I've read. It seems unimaginable that a civilized species would rely on running prey to exhaustion. Let's hope they've moved beyond such primal methods." They reached a set of double doors that slid open to reveal an elegantly furnished reception area. There, under soft lights, stood Ambassador Laura Frost. She was dressed in a tailored dark suit, her hair streaked with silver and pulled back severely. Standing beside her was a massive figure, easily a head taller than Xylox, security attaché Marcus Reed. Xylox remembered from the files that Reed rarely spoke, but was rumored to have single-handedly subdued an entire pirate boarding party on a human outpost. A third human, identified as Science Officer Priya Capper, hovered near a flickering holographic display. Frost approached with a smile that displayed unervingly white teeth. Xylox felt a ripple of alarm pass through his skin. The show of teeth seemed predatory, yet her manner exuded warmth. She extended a hand, a gesture humans use for greeting. Xylox had practiced the handshake carefully. He placed his smaller, 4-fingered hand in hers. "It's an honor to finally meet you, Ambassador Xylox," she said, voice calm and well-modulated. "We've heard much about your contributions to Confederation diplomacy." Xylox nodded, trying not to stare too obviously at her mouth. "The honor is mine. The Confederation is intrigued by your species. We hope to learn more about your customs and intentions." Reed gave Xylox the briefest of nods, revealing no trace of emotion. Priya Capper lifted her gaze from the holographic interface long enough to offer a polite smile. Xylox noted the ease with which her hands danced across the controls, her dexterity surprising for someone without specialized limbs. Frost gestured toward a semicircle of chairs. "Shall we sit, Ambassador? We have much to discuss." They arranged themselves around a low table made of some polished material that reflected the overhead lights. Xylox observed that the humans took their places with a certain unspoken coordination, as if they were constantly aware of each other's positions. He took the central chair and exhaled to calm his nerves. "If you don't mind, Ambassador," he began, "I'd like to address the rumors. Directly, we've heard that Earth is an unusually hostile planet, with predators far larger than you and conditions so harsh that most life forms wouldn't survive. Yet, you became the dominant species." Frost's smile flickered again, that quick flash of teeth. "It's true, Earth can be challenging. We evolved alongside creatures that could hunt us if given a chance. Our weather ranges from Arctic tundras to blistering deserts. We overcame these challenges through cooperation, intelligence, and, well, certain stubborn will to survive." Xylox's skin darkened to a thoughtful violet. "Remarkable. My people have difficulty imagining such a place. We come from a world with few natural predators and stable climate zones." Capper leaned forward slightly. "If you ever wish to see detailed data on Earth's biosphere, I'd be happy to share. It helps to put things in context. For instance, we survived not because we were the biggest or fastest, but because we adapted. That's our true advantage." Queel interjected softly. "There are also historical records of your species waging near-constant war with itself. You've developed nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. Many in the Confederation wonder if these violent tendencies might extend to interspecies relations." The silence that followed felt loaded. Reed's gaze remained steady, and Frost let out a measured breath. "It's a fair question," she said. "We do have a violent history. Many breakthroughs in technology came from conflict. But we have also learned restraint. We formed the Earth Concordat, uniting our planet under a single charter. We have not had a global conflict in decades." Xylox tilted his head. "Decades is a negligible span in galactic terms, Ambassador." Frost nodded. "Perhaps. But for us, that represents significant progress. We've matured enough to seek out new allies, to join the Confederation, and to uphold the principles of peace." Before Xylox could respond, an alarm rang out through the station. Red emergency lights flashed along the walls. A voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Alert! Unidentified vessels approaching with hostile intent detected. All diplomatic personnel, please proceed to designated safety zones." Immediately, the humans stood. Frost's expression shifted from open diplomacy to ice-cold focus. Reed pressed a hand to his ear, muttering something that Xylox could not catch, and Capper's fingers flew across her datapad. Xylox's skin displayed a pattern of panic green as he rose to follow them out of the room. In the corridor, security lights pulsed. Queel's breathing sacs fluttered with anxiety as they heard the news from a station guard. Varian pirates had been raiding nearby trade routes for months, but no one had expected them to strike the station itself. They had arrived in force, apparently hoping to take hostages or valuable technology. Xylox led the humans toward an emergency shelter, but froze when he saw Ambassador Frost calmly tapping her wrist communicator and issuing orders. Frost to Interceptor and Vigilant. "Hostile contact confirmed. Prepare engagement protocols. Protect the station at all costs." The words gave Xylox pause. She had not asked for permission. She was giving instructions to warships of her own. The corridor shook with the reverberation of distant impacts. They hurried on, eventually reaching a reinforced door that hissed open to reveal a sheltered conference room with thick walls and heavy blast shutters. Frost motioned Xylox inside, then quickly secured the door. "Ambassador, you should remain here. My team and I will coordinate the defense of this station." Xylox tried to gather his composure. "You brought military escorts to a diplomatic station?" Reed offered a nod that might have been an apology or simply an acknowledgement of fact. "It's standard protocol for first contact missions in case of unforeseen hostilities. Earth's region of space isn't always peaceful." Through the shelter's monitor, Xylox could see external camera feeds. 2 human vessels had launched, Interceptor and Vigilant, described by Frost as multi-role escort ships. They cut through the darkness of space with astonishing maneuverability, engaging the larger Vurian raiders that circled the station. Xylox couldn't help but notice that the station's own defenses seemed sluggish by comparison. He watched as the interceptor angled to avoid a barrage of plasma fire, then unleashed targeted bursts that struck precisely where the Vurian shields flickered. The Vigilant flanked another raider, disabling its engines with uncanny accuracy. Xylox's heart hammered in his chest. He had witnessed Confederation police vessels in action before, but never had he seen such lethal efficiency. It was as if the humans had practiced this scenario 100 times. Queel, eyes wide, murmured, "They move like predators cornering their prey." Frost, seeing the feed, allowed herself a small nod of approval. "They're well-trained. They know what to do." The Vurian ships, outmaneuvered and clearly not expecting such resistance, began to scatter. One raider attempted to board the station, but the Vigilant's tractor beam pinned it in place. A moment later, a targeted blast disabled its docking clamps. Within minutes, the entire raid was in disarray. The camera showed a final burst of light as the interceptor's focused beam pierced a raider's engine core. The vessel went dark, drifting helplessly. Through it all, Xylox tried to reconcile the calm, gracious Ambassador Frost with this abrupt show of military might. Once the pirates were disabled, the humans wasted no time. Frost contacted her pilots again, instructing them to stand by to receive any survivors. She turned to Xylox with the same too-many-teeth smile, though now it seemed edged with cold determination. "We are peaceful, Ambassador," she said softly, "but peace sometimes needs a firm hand." That was the moment Xylox felt his worldview crack. These humans could deliver devastating force with terrifying efficiency, yet they had not destroyed the pirates entirely. They had neutralized them. The question that lingered, would they always exercise that restraint? In the days following the Vurian pirate incident, the station's corridors buzzed with conversation about humanity's sudden emergence as a formidable protective force. Some species expressed relief that the pirates, long a nuisance to Confederate shipping lanes, had been taught a harsh lesson. Others whispered of fear. If the humans could do that to the pirates, what might they do to anyone else who crossed them? Xylox spent those days in near-constant meetings. He shared formal thanks on behalf of the Confederation for the humans' timely intervention, while privately grappling with his concerns. Could a species so steeped in survival instincts truly stand for peace? He was not alone in his uncertainty. Representatives from multiple worlds gathered to discuss the matter. High Counselor VX, an ancient being from the Thasian civilization, had arrived to observe the negotiations. Known for living centuries, the Thasians prided themselves on their measured approach. They rarely gave endorsements quickly, yet High Counselor VX seemed intrigued by the humans. Xylox found himself in many hushed conversations with VX, who listened intently, her silvery eyes reflective. Meanwhile, Ambassador Frost arranged an official presentation about Earth's colonies and future plans. She highlighted how humans had established mining bases on Mars and built thriving outposts on Europa and Titan. Science Officer Capper spoke of collaboration possibilities, especially in terraforming technology that could help other Confederation worlds. In these sessions, Frost's manner was warm and articulate, a stark contrast to the lethal precision displayed by her escorts. The diplomatic station was bustling one afternoon when Xylox found himself cornered by Gorks, a representative from a world famous for its strict neutrality. Gorks's scaly brow furrowed. "You do realize these humans must be reined in, yes? They show up with warships, they blast pirates out of space, and they claim to desire membership? It's suspicious." Xylox exhaled. "They did save the station. We should give them credit for that. The question is, do they seek to dominate or truly ally with us? What if next time they decide we stand in their way?" Gorks retorted. "Who will stop them?" Xylox had no easy answer. Later that same day, he encountered High Counselor VX. The Thasian glided on a hover platform, her gaze serene. "Ambassador Xylox, you look troubled." He bowed slightly. I am, High Counselor. Our new potential allies frighten many. VX gave a slight nod. You've studied them. Their world was a crucible that forged remarkable resilience. I see both peril and promise. She glanced around conspiratorially. I have heard rumors that an Azrai Dominion fleet is gathering along the Confederation's outer borders. They may test us soon. Xylox's skin flickered a tense green. The Azrai Dominion have been a looming threat for years, expanding into unclaimed star systems and subjugating smaller worlds. If that's so, he said carefully, then perhaps the humans' presence is fortuitous. They seem eager to prove themselves to help keep the peace. As if on cue, a shrill alert sounded. Station staff began rushing through the corridors. Xylox tapped the nearest console, his heart's pounding at the thought of another pirate raid. Instead, he saw the station's news feed. An Azrai battle group had crossed a border sector. The Confederation had only a few patrol ships stationed there, none of which were prepared for a large-scale engagement. He hurried toward the main conference hall, where he found Ambassador Frost, Captain Tenzin Noru, a newly arrived human fleet commander, and several Confederation delegates. Frost's posture was composed, her eyes cold with calculation. High Counselor VX arrived moments later, and the discussion began in earnest. Captain Noru outlined the intelligence reports, 30 Azrai vessels, including at least 2 dreadnoughts, on course for the station's region. Conflicts with the Azrai typically began with demands, escalated to raids, and could end in outright invasion if they sensed weakness. The Confederation's diplomatic council erupted in concern. Gortz insisted that opening negotiations with Azrai might still be possible. Others pointed out that the Azrai had not adhered to prior treaties. Frost, quietly scanning data, murmured, "They're testing your defenses or lack thereof. Predators often probe for weaknesses." Xylox regarded her sharply. "Are you comparing the Azrai to Earth's predators?" Frost gave a slight shrug. Predators come in many forms. Some are animals that hunt for food. Others are civilizations that expand through force. Our question is how best to respond. High Counselor VX, floating at the center of the room, let her gaze rest on the human ambassador. Would humanity offer to stand with us again, should the Azrai violate our borders? A hush fell. Xylox knew that the Theasian's words carried weight. If she openly supported such an alliance, many others might follow. Frost pressed her lips together, then spoke calmly. "We have resources. A fleet within a short hyperspace jump. We would protect this station and its inhabitants if they are threatened. Are you proposing that we rely entirely on human firepower?" Gortz hissed. Captain Noru lifted a hand. "Not entirely, but we ask you to consider that we have the capability to deter the Azrai. We want peace, not conquest." Conflicting voices filled the hall. Eventually, Supreme Arbiter Cell arrived, his bioluminescent spots pulsing as he worked to restore order. He announced a recess, requesting that the delegations prepare their final positions. As the hall emptied, Xylox found himself face-to-face with Frost. "Ambassador," he said carefully, "what if your show of force invites the Azrai to strike harder or sees you as a rival empire? This could escalate dangerously." She met his gaze with those strangely intense eyes. "Then they will learn, as the Vurian pirates did, that we don't tolerate aggression. I'd prefer a diplomatic resolution. But if Azrai forces attempt to seize this station, we'll protect it." A day later, the Azrai fleet began its slow, ominous approach. They transmitted a message demanding that certain Confederation officials be handed over, referencing intelligence that the Confederation had obstructed Azrai expansion. The station's defenses paled in comparison to the 30 warships heading its way. The mood among Confederation representatives reached a fever pitch of worry. Some advocated immediate surrender to avoid bloodshed, while others insisted they could not bow to intimidation. Xylox found himself in a private corridor with Marcus Reed. The massive human stood with arms crossed, gazing at a tactical display on the wall. "They'll be here soon," Reed said quietly. Xylox's skin flickered. "You don't appear afraid." Reed shook his head. "We've dealt with worse." Not to trivialize the threat, but humans have faced annihilation more times than I care to recall. Nuclear crises, climate disasters, external threats, we always find a way. Xylox inhaled. But in the process, how much destruction do you unleash? Reed's mouth curved into a faint, humorless smile. Less than we could. Humans are apex predators, Ambassador. That doesn't mean we hunt for sport. We learned early that cooperation, not mindless aggression, keeps us alive. The final confrontation came as the HFY dreadnoughts dropped out of faster-than-light travel close to the station's perimeter. Long-range scans showed dozens of escort vessels flanking them. The Confederation's meager defense force formed a small cluster, hopelessly outmatched. In the station's grand chamber, Supreme Arbiter Cell reconvened an emergency session. Screens displayed the HFY vessels' approach in real time. Tension soared. Then, unexpectedly, there was a ripple in local space as bright distortions flickered. Into the region emerged a fleet of human warships. It was not simply the Interceptor and Vigilant this time, but at least 20 Capital-class vessels, each bristling with advanced weaponry. Their lead vessel, a massive dreadnought bearing the insignia of the United Earth Fleet, hailed the station. "This is Admiral Helena Reyes of the 7th Expeditionary Fleet," came a crisp voice through the chamber's audio. "We are here at the invitation of Ambassador Frost to provide assistance. HFY vessels, you have entered Confederation space illegally. Power down your weapons and withdraw." A hush enveloped the chamber. Representatives stared at the displays in awe. The HFY, seeing themselves outnumbered and technologically outclassed for perhaps the first time, began to hesitate. Moments passed with no response, no immediate attack. The tension felt like a drawn bowstring. If the HFY fired, the humans would surely retaliate, and the station would become a battlefield. Finally, the HFY dreadnoughts realigned their formation. One by one, they pivoted away from the station. The sensors picked up faster-than-light engine spikes. Without a single shot exchanged, the HFY retreated. A chorus of stunned whispers filled the chamber. Frost stood in the center, her voice echoing calmly. "We do not relish confrontation, but we will defend our allies." In the days after that, the Confederation debated humanity's application for membership anew. Some still feared the humans were too powerful, their presence too disruptive. Others argued that the demonstration of force without unleashing destruction spoke of a civilization that could handle its strength responsibly. High Counselor VX took the floor of the Grand Chamber, her ancient voice resonant. "Many centuries ago," she said, "my people believed we had seen every possible shape a civilization might take. We had known warlike species that conquered all in their path, and we had known peaceful species that excelled in philosophy and art. But never before have we encountered a species that blends both extremes so effectively. The predatory instinct to fight and the moral capacity to choose when not to. I believe they can be an asset to our Confederation, so long as we remain vigilant and cooperative. Peace, after all, is fragile." At the final vote, the majority agreed to fast-track human membership. Ambassadors from various worlds approached Frost and Xylox, offering measured congratulations and guarded welcomes. A formal ceremony was arranged aboard a new diplomatic station known as New Harmony, a joint construction project symbolizing the partnership between Earth and the Confederation. Xylox, newly promoted to senior ambassador for his handling of the first contact, found himself once again standing beside Frost on an observation deck. This time, though, his skin glowed a calmer, more confident hue. Below them, docking bays buzzed with activity as ships of dozens of designs came and went. The United Earth Fleet maintained a discreet presence here, while several Confederation patrol ships also stood by. Frost looked out over the vast starfield. "It's beautiful, isn't it? All these species, all these worlds, brought together by necessity and choice." Xylox nodded. "I never quite imagined we would be working so closely with a species from a death world. Yet here we are." "Ironic," Frost said softly. "On Earth, we weren't always at the top of the food chain. We had predators bigger than us, faster than us. We learned to outthink and outlast them. Eventually, we tamed our world, or so we thought. You speak of your wars, Xylox said, recalling historical data. Nuclear brinkmanship, climate havoc, genocidal conflicts. By all rights, your species should have self-destructed. Frost's smile this time was gentler, a reflection of gratitude rather than a display of threat. We came close many times, but adversity forced us to adapt. We discovered that if we didn't learn cooperation and a shared moral code, we would vanish. She turned toward him. That's why we can't abide those who prey on the weak, be they pirates or empires. We saw how easily a civilization can slip into chaos. Xylox studied her face. He still saw the keen watchfulness in her eyes, reminiscent of a hunter scanning a horizon. But he also sensed a genuine desire for accord. Well, he said carefully, it's comforting to know you haven't simply replaced aggression with conquest. At least, not yet. She chuckled. We prefer to invest our aggression in protecting something worthwhile. A chime signaled that the high-ranking Confederation representatives had arrived for the station's dedication ceremony. Xylox and Frost made their way to the central atrium. High Counselor VX drifted in on her hover platform, regal scales shining under the overhead lights. Supreme Arbiter Cell stood near the dais, his bioluminescent spots arranged in formal patterns of welcome. Various species gathered, from tall, slender phasans with willowy limbs to squat, thick-shell Garathians. The hush in the crowd indicated that many still found the humans intimidating, but they were here nonetheless, eager to see how the next chapter would unfold. Captain Noru, Admiral Reyes, and Security Attaché Reed joined from the human side, forming a group that looked surprisingly at ease in the swirl of diverse alien forms. Supreme Arbiter Cell tapped an ornate staff on the dais, and the dull ring quieted the assembly. We gather to commemorate a new era. The Confederation, formed ages ago as a bulwark against galactic chaos, welcomes the newest member, humanity. In recognition of their contributions to our security and in acknowledgement of the complexities they bring, we dedicate New Harmony Station as a place of dialogue and progress. There was polite applause, interspersed with the tapping or clicking gestures used by certain species. Frost stepped up, inclining her head in thanks. The people of Earth are humbled to stand among you. We bring our strengths, our technology, our adaptability, our will to defend those who cannot defend themselves. We also bring our hopes for peaceful coexistence. As she spoke, Xylox felt an odd stirring of pride. Only a short while ago, he had feared these humans might become the Confederation's undoing. Now, watching them speak so earnestly, he realized they might instead be its protectors. He caught sight of Gorks lurking at the edge of the crowd, arms folded. The representative still wore a skeptical frown, but at least he was there. Small steps, Xylox thought. After the ceremony, the crowd dispersed for a reception. Serving drones glided through, offering refreshments suited to the physiological needs of different species. Xylox found himself sampling a new beverage the humans had introduced, something they called iced tea. The flavor was strange, bitter, slightly sweet, but oddly refreshing. He drifted toward a window where Reed stood, gazing out at the stars. The station's rotation offered a sweeping view of ships queued in docking patterns. I see you've been promoted, Xylox said, noticing the insignia on Reed's collar. Joint Confederation Security Forces, is that correct? Reed nodded. A pilot program, they call it, combining human tactical training with Confederation oversight. The idea is that our presence will discourage pirates or opportunistic invasions like the Azrai tried. If it proves effective, they might expand it. Xylox's skin shimmered with cautious optimism. It seems we're forging something new here, a combined approach to defense. Reed took a sip of a green-hued beverage. We'll see how it goes. Humans excel at forging alliances when we sense mutual benefit. But we also keep a watchful eye for betrayal. We can't help it. It's in our nature. Xylox remembered the countless cautionary tales in his own species' history about apex predators. In stable ecosystems, top predators actually maintain balance by preventing any one herbivore species from overwhelming the environment. Could humans function in a similar role within the Confederation? The idea simultaneously reassured and unsettled him. A short distance away, Frost was engaged in animated conversation with High Counselor VX and Admiral Reyes. The Thasian elder seemed to be questioning them about how Earth overcame internal strife. Reyes responded with a brief mention of historical upheavals and subsequent unifications. Frost added that humans had to learn the hard way that the only sustainable victory was one that didn't destroy the resource base they depended on, namely their home planet. Xylox moved closer, drawn by the discussion. He arrived in time to hear VX's thoughtful summation. Your species learned to adapt swiftly to challenges, whether they be environmental or self-inflicted. That adaptability, I think, is the true danger and the true asset you present to this galaxy. Frost nodded. An apt assessment. We neither want to be destroyers nor doormats. Balance is key. The High Counselor floated away, leaving Frost and Xylox face to face. Balance, Xylox repeated softly. That is what we all seek in some form. Frost's expression carried that predatory edge, tempered now by a gentler warmth. Indeed, we intend to help maintain it, for ourselves and for everyone who values peace. Still, we're prepared if that peace is threatened. He remembered hearing that phrase multiple times. If you want peace, prepare for war. It felt contradictory when he had first learned of it, but in the presence of these humans, who had just compelled an entire Azrai battle group to retreat without firing a shot, it made a certain sense. Later, as the station shifted to its night cycle lighting, many delegations retired to their quarters. The corridors emptied, taking on a soft, dim glow. Xylox found himself at a broad observation window, alone with his reflections. He stared out at the star-flecked void, contemplating what had happened since the day the humans arrived. Footsteps approached. He glanced over to see Ambassador Frost. Her gaze followed his toward the stars. They stood there quietly for a moment before she finally spoke. The galaxy is bigger than we ever imagined, she said, and full of challenges. Xylox nodded. You surprise me, Ambassador. Your species overcame adversity at home, but I fear the scale of conflicts out here could dwarf anything you knew on Earth. She tapped lightly on the window's edge. We learned that adversity is adversity, no matter its scale. We adapt, and we hope others will adapt with us, rather than force us into confrontation. He took a slow breath. I've traveled to hundreds of worlds and met thousands of diplomats, warriors, and philosophers. I've never encountered a species that can shift so seamlessly between conciliation and aggression. A wry smile touched her lips. We had to. On Earth, if we didn't learn to do both, we would have gone extinct. Outside, 3 human ships executed a precise flyby around the station, a ceremonial display that also served as a reminder of their readiness. The reflection of starlight glinted on the hulls of each vessel. Xylox's heart beat in quiet awe. Sometimes, he said, the Confederation only needed more diplomats. But now I see we might need something else. A predator that understands the cost of conflict and the necessity of peace. Frost's gaze flicked to him. We want the Confederation to thrive, and we'll stand with you against threats like the Vurian pirates or the Azrai. That's why we joined. He recalled those final words from his briefing. Then perhaps your presence is exactly what we needed. That day, when the galaxy understood that humans were just apex predators pretending to be diplomats, it wasn't the day we should fear. It was the day we realized how much we need you. Frost turned to him fully, the too-many-teeth smile absent for once. Instead, her lips curved in a small, earnest expression. We're not exactly pretending. We really do want diplomacy. But if push comes to shove, I know, he said gently, you'll fight like predators. She exhaled, an air of acceptance. Yes. They gazed out together at the drifting constellations of ships and stars. As he studied her reflection in the window, Xylox felt a cautious hope. The humans brought unpredictability, potential danger, and undeniable power, but they also brought the promise of a new kind of stability, one that recognized the fragile nature of peace in a vast galaxy filled with opportunistic forces. Time would tell if their alliance held, if the humans remained steadfast in their willingness to protect rather than conquer. Yet for now, they stood side by side, ambassadors of different worlds, joined by the shared conviction that the best way to prevent destruction was to be prepared for it. The station hummed softly, a symbol of a new balance between guardianship and diplomacy, all underpinned by a species that had evolved on a world where survival demanded both cunning and compassion. Thus ended the day the galaxy truly understood that humans were apex predators pretending to be diplomats. And in that realization came not universal fear, but a collective breath of relief. Because for once, those apex predators had chosen to stand as protectors, forging a future that might endure far longer than any federation built merely on compromise and good intentions.